Welcome back to China Gateway. Today we're going up, literally.
We are. We're diving into something that honestly feels like it's straight out of science fiction.
It really does. China's pushing hard into what they're calling the low-altitude economy.
And this isn't just some future plan. It's happening now. Below 600 meters, specifically. Think delivery drones everywhere, yes, but crucially, flying taxis. Passenger drones.
Flying taxis. And they're moving beyond just prototypes, right? This is becoming real.
That's the kicker. China has already granted full operational licenses for these passenger drones.
Wait, full licenses? Not just tests in some remote area?
No, full-on certification for production and commercial operations. It's a massive signal. They want to change how we move around cities, maybe worldwide.
Okay, so let's unpack that. What exactly are these vehicles? You mentioned eVTOLs.
Right, eVTOLs. Electric vertical takeoff and landing aircraft. Key things. They run on electricity, they lift off straight up like a helicopter, and, this is important, they're designed to be autonomous, pilotless.
Pilotless flying taxis.
Okay.
That's the headline grabber.
Yeah.
But you mentioned delivery drones, too.
Yeah, and that part is already, well, almost mundane in some places, like Shenzhen.
Mundane. How so?
Well, imagine you're an office worker, it's lunchtime, you don't wait for a guy on a scooter, you just head to a designated Meituan delivery station and your lunch arrives by drone, flying on a set route.
Seriously? That's already common.
Pretty common in certain districts, yeah. And the scale is getting impressive. In 2023 alone, something like 2.7 million parcel deliveries by drone happened across the country.
2.7 million?
Yeah.
Wow. And it's not just takeout, I assume?
No, not at all. China Post uses them for coastal islands in Fujian. Hospitals in dozens of cities get medical liquids delivered this way, and agriculture is huge too.
Agriculture, how?
Around 250,000 agricultural drones are out there spraying fertilizer, pesticides. It's moving from being a novelty to actual critical infrastructure.
Infrastructure that pays for itself, presumably. Or is it still heavily subsidized? What about the cost?
That's where it gets really interesting. Our sources looked at Z2 Express's high-end drone series, the total operating cost, about 1.14 yuan per delivery.
Okay, 1.14 yuan. How does that stack up against, say, a human courier?
Well, if you compare it to the middle mile stage in logistics, moving stuff from a big warehouse to a local hub, that costs about 1.2 yuan with human labor right now.
Hold on, why middle mile? Drone delivery feels more like last mile, doesn't it? Door to door almost.
Good question. It's because that 1.44 yuan figure reflects the current drone operations, which are often on these fixed, super efficient routes, kind of like that middle mile predictability.
I see. So it's not quite door to door yet, but for those specific routes?
Exactly. For those routes, it's already slightly cheaper. But here's the main point. Everyone expects the cost of drone hardware to plummet as they mass produce them.
So even if it's neck and neck now?
The gap's going to widen.
Yeah.
And that strongly suggests we're on the cusp of drones displacing a lot of human couriers, especially for those predictable delivery jobs.
Okay, that's huge potential disruption. Which brings me to the how. How did this happen so incredibly fast in China? Was it a tech breakthrough or something else?
It's policy, unequivocally policy-driven.
Really? How so?
It got top billing in the government work report. They basically put the low-altitude economy right up there with AI and quantum computing as a key strategic sector.
That's a massive signal. Tells everyone where the government wants investment to flow.
Precisely. And then they backed it up structurally. The NDRC, the big planning agency, created a whole new division just for the low-altitude economy.
Wow, okay. They don't do that lightly.
No. That's usually reserved for stuff they see as nationally vital. The goal seems to be replicating the China speed we saw with electric vehicles, that rapid scale up.
But you can't just fly drones everywhere, can you? What about airspace control? That's usually military, right?
Absolutely. That was the essential first step. They had to open up controlled airspace. So far, 6 cities, including big names like Shenzhen and Hefei, have been given partial autonomy for the airspace below 600 meters for commercial flights.
Shenzhen seems to be the poster child here.
Definitely. They've gone all in. Nearly 500 takeoff and landing spots built, 250 approved drone delivery routes. They even blanketed the low-altitude airspace up to 120 meters with 5G coverage for constant communication.
And that infrastructure led to
results. Meituan alone did 776,000 drone deliveries just in Shenzhen last year.
Incredible numbers. And this leads us to the passenger drone breakthrough. Exactly. Yes, on March 28th, just this year, 2025, they became the world's first company to get the whole package. production certification, airworthiness certification, and an operational license for a crewed aerial vehicle, their H216S model.
The first globally, so they can actually start flying passengers commercially.
That's the plan. Starting late 2025, initially focusing on things like tourism flights and maybe some air commuting routes in Guangzhou. The potential market size must be attracting a lot of attention. What are the projections?
They're staggering. Expected annual output of 1.5 trillion yuan. That's roughly 200 billion US dollars by 2025.
By this year?
Yep. And scaling to 3.5 trillion yuan by 2035. And look at the fleet growth. The number of civilian drones jumped 455% in 5 years. We're talking 2.2 million drones by the end of last year.
That kind of growth definitely turns heads in the investment world.
No doubt. Now let's contrast this for a second. Look at the US. You have companies like Joby Aviation.
Right, Joby. They're a big name in eVTOLs over here.
They are, founded 5 years before EHang. And honestly, their tech specs look better on paper, faster speed, longer range.
Yeah.
But they're still stuck. Deep in the certification process with the FAA, no commercial operations in sight yet.
So China's leading the actual deployment, even if maybe the tech isn't quite as advanced yet in some areas. Why? What are China's advantages here?
Our sources point to 3 main things. First, sheer supply chain power.
Advantage number 1. Explain that.
China's already the world's biggest maker of batteries, electric vehicles, and consumer drones. Think DJI, think BYD.
Okay, so they have the industrial base.
Exactly. They have the factories, the skilled workforce, the expertise in motors, sensors, flight controls, all the critical bits needed for eVTOLs. They can just scale up production incredibly fast.
Makes sense. What's advantage 2?
Regulatory speed. Or maybe flexibility is a better word.
Flexibility. How so, compared to the U.S.?
Well, in the U.S., the FAA makes eVTOLs go through the same super strict, super slow certification process as a traditional passenger jet. Joby submitted stuff back in 2018, and they're still waiting in 2025.
Okay, that sounds slow. And China.
EHang got fully certified in about 5 years. It seems they often use special approvals, focusing on specific models, specific routes, specific uses. It's faster, but maybe less standardized.
Faster, but potentially less standardized. That sounds familiar, like maybe with autonomous cars.
No.
Allowing them on roads maybe before the tech is 100% perfect.
It's a similar pattern, yes. That China's speed applied to regulation is a core difference. They're willing to approve things operationally faster, perhaps accepting more initial risk or limitations. They even have 6 universities starting low-altitude engineering majors this year alone. The whole system moves fast.
Okay, supply chain, regulatory speed. What's the third advantage?
Public acceptance, it seems much higher in China.
Really? People are cool with drones flying everywhere.
Apparently, yes. A McKinsey survey found 86% of Chinese consumers welcome drone delivery. In the US, it was only 53%.
Why the difference?
In the US, you hear a lot about privacy worries, noise pollution, cost concerns. In China, there seems to be maybe a higher cultural tolerance for trying new things, even if they're a bit inconvenient initially, especially if it's seen as part of national progress.
That tolerance for rapid development is interesting, but it must come with downsides, right?
Oh,
What are the challenges?
big ones. Even the government, the NDRC itself, is publicly warning about overheating in the sector.
Overheating, like
Yeah.
too much investment too fast.
Exactly. Too much redundant construction, vicious price competition brewing. You've got over 100 companies jumping into the space. Big names, like the car maker, XPeng included.
But you said only EHang has the full operational license so far.
Correct. So you have this potential glut of companies building capacity, but only one can actually operate commercially right now. It smells a lot like what happened with EVs and solar panels.
Ah, the classic pattern.
Yeah.
Government pushes, tons of companies jump in, massive oversupply, price wars, and then mass bankruptcies, leaving only a few winners.
That's the fear. It's a known playbook. And alongside that, you have the massive question mark, safety.
Right.
Right.
Flying taxis over crowded cities. How safe are these things, really?
It's the critical question. And it was underlined by an accident in March 2024 in Nanning. A crewed aerial vehicle apparently flipped over during takeoff.
Flipped over. Okay, that's worrying. This takes us back to the regulation speed and maybe those tech differences you mentioned. Like redundancy. Can you break that down? What's the difference between triple redundancy and what EHang might be using?
Sure. Think about critical systems, flight controls, power. In traditional aviation and what companies like Joby are building, you aim for triple redundancy.
Meaning 3 backups.
Essentially, yes. 3 independent systems ready to do the same job. If one fails, the second takes over instantly. If that also fails, the third one is still there. For total failure, all three have to go wrong at once, which is statistically very, very unlikely.
Okay, that sounds reassuring. And EHang, the one that's certified now.
The reports suggest EHang's current certified models use single or maybe dual redundancy for some key systems.
So, one backup or maybe even zero backups for some things.
That's the implication. If the primary system fails, you might have one backup. If that fails, or if it was a single system to begin with, well, there's no margin for error. Flying over dense cities, that difference in safety philosophy is significant.
It really is. Especially when you consider the current certified model, the H216S. You said it's expensive.
Very. Over 2 million yuan. And the range is quite short, only about 30 kilometers.
30 kilometers, that's not exactly replacing a commute for most people.
Not at all. Right now, it looks less like mass transit and more like a high-tech sightseeing toy for tourist spots.
So the actual business model for flying taxis at scale, it's not really there yet.
It's basically non-existent right now. Even for the successful drone deliveries, there are questions about scaling up. What happens when you have sustained bad weather, heavy rain, high winds across a whole city? Can the system cope? Profitability is still a puzzle.
Okay, so summing this up, China is definitely leading the world, no question, but it's leading in the commercial exploration phase. They're deploying faster than anyone.
Yes, they have the supply chain, the government mandate, the public acceptance, at least for now. They're pushing the boundaries.
But it creates this interesting paradox, doesn't it? We see these incredibly strong Chinese companies merging BYD and EVs, DJI and drones, now EHang and eVTOLs, world leaders.
Absolutely, dominant players.
Yet at the same time, you hear reports about economic headwinds within China, concerns about youth unemployment, maybe sluggish consumer spending. How does that fit together? Why doesn't this amazing industrial strength translate more directly into, say, widespread prosperity for the average person?
That's the multi-trillion yuan question, isn't it? Part of the answer might lie in the cost of creating these dominant industries. The government encourages dozens, maybe hundreds of companies to pile into a sector, far more than the market can actually sustain.
Right, the overcapacity issue again. They flood the zone to find the winners.
Exactly. That strategy does help find the one or two companies like BYD or EHang that can compete globally. But the other 58 companies,
They go bust.
They go bust.
Yeah.
Wasted investment, workers lose jobs, suppliers don't get paid. That market distortion, that massive churn and resource burn required to find the national champions, that has a real economic cost that offsets some of the gains from the winners. The low-altitude economy looks like the next big test case for this model.
That's a really fascinating way to frame it. You're looking at the potential future of urban mobility, but it's being built on a system that kind of deliberately engineers mass failure to achieve global leadership in specific niches.
It's a high-stakes gamble.
So knowing all this, the speed, the potential, but also the current safety standards, especially that redundancy difference, well, let's put it to you, the listener. Would you hop into one of those drone taxis in Guangzhou tomorrow?
Yeah, what do you think? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. We'd genuinely love to hear your take on this. Is the convenience worth the perceived risk right now?
Definitely let us know. And of course, don't forget to subscribe to China Gateway. We'll keep exploring these stories shaping China's future and really the world's next big opportunities.
Thanks for tuning in.
We'll catch you on the next Deep Dive.